well, I believe in me. You know, it doesn't matter that no one else either cares or doesn't understand where your focus is, where you want to go, that path you want to take.
Can you give us your name?
Yeah, my name is Juan Carlos. How
are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Doing good.
Thank you.
You said you like food. What's your favorite food? I could relate to food a lot.
Well, I'm Mexican, so I love Mexican food, but I love finding the commonalities in different cuisines that are global. Like living in San Jose, you get to experience so much diversity, and I'm eating Ethiopian food, Vietnamese food, so I think I enjoy as many foods that I can. I'm allergic to shrimp.
No.
Yeah. So.
No ceviche. No aguachile.
As long as it's fish, it's okay. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dang it. That's such like a staple. I feel like shrimp tacos and stuff. But hey, you still have a whole spectrum to choose from, and you said you're open to foods around here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Love it. Can you tell us a little bit about where we're at?
So we are at the new location of Empire 7 Studios. We were in the neighborhood. We've been in this neighborhood since 2008 and just reopened our new gallery space in last year, in 2022.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
So in your path to your success, which was like, let's say, opening this or whatever in life that you consider, like whatever you define as success, what has that looked like? Like, what is your definition of success in life? You could relate it to opening this, anything else in life that you're like, this is what speaks to you personally, deep down inside as, man, this is like how I see definition of success in whatever area.
Got it. I mean, for me, it's, I think, some things that do define success for me is like making a goal for myself, and, for instance, the gallery, it was something that I wasn't really thinking about doing, but then once I set my mind to wanting to do it and what I wanted this business to become really helped me just understand the growth. And here we are today in this brand new building, and I worked pretty hard 6 years in working with the developers to actually be here, and definitely I think that's one way that I've been able to just acknowledge my successful achievement, and a goal that I set for myself is to do something. My artwork, if I'm trying to get into a show or an exhibit, I was able to do a project with the San Jose Museum of Art. And for me, that was a massive accomplishment, And besides just, work, for me, it's just, I think, finding positivity, fighting the ego, letting go of that, finding peace within myself, trying to also understand, with any success, I think I've been able to grow as a person and also be able to want to give back. So when I find, even if it's the smallest opportunity to give something back, I see that as success too.
So you would, by definition, this is success right here.
Exactly.
This is success. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. That means a lot. So you're saying you find peace within yourself, that's a definition of success you were mentioning, and then as well as happiness, I believe. Is that what you said, right, correctly?
Happiness definitely is one.
To get to those, what are things that you do Because you said you look for happiness in everything, right?
Yeah, I think things that I try to do is just do my best by others. Try not to harm anyone. I do my best at trying to consume, the best that I can consciously, And with everything, I think I try to just be conscious about my actions and understand that there's responsibilities and, maybe repercussions to certain actions. But I think from making so many mistakes, I try to learn from them. But, I think I'm sort of living a dream by doing this, being an artist, by having a career in the arts. Makes me extremely happy, and I'm grateful every day that I get to wake up and be my own boss. And, and with that, I try to make sure that I'm treating everyone that I collaborate with and work with fair and respectfully. So I find happiness in that. I think it allows me to go about my day and not feel like, I have to worry about anything, because, as long as I'm not hurting people or others, that's a good feeling.
I like that. So, in your path, what are some challenges that you faced with, let's say, either imposter syndrome or negative thoughts, I would say like negative thoughts or self-doubt, for example? Like, have you ever faced any of that sort of, like, let's say to opening this, for example, or any other facets in your life?
Yeah, all the time, I'm a Cancer. I'm a very passionate person. I'm very loyal. And there's been times, where in this industry, I certainly feel like a rare. I'm a rarity, as a person of color, to be owner of my own gallery establishment, a curator of massive public art projects. There's a lot there, when I go to an institution and I kind of stick out, as the person of color in the room. It could be uncomfortable, and at times I doubt myself. Should I be here? Do I fit in? But then I also try to remember that as people of color, we have, and not only as a person of color, but my upbringing, my struggles, the struggles that my mom had to endure in order for me to be here today and have a career in the arts and all these things. Whether she helped me or not, I give credit to her for, one, bringing me to this country and giving me that privilege to have access to all the things that we have here in this country. So, it's a lot. I think every day I can doubt myself on a certain occasion, especially being so ambitious. I want to do 10 things and one or maybe half of them fall through. And, I have to remember, I just try to remind myself that maybe it's just not the time, but, no, there's a lot of that, a lot of doubt. And I actually didn't really know the term imposter syndrome. But realizing sort of the deconstruction of that term, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I relate to all these things,
Yes, right. It's very interesting. So I just wanted to point out, like, you're, mentioning it, as a person of color, and, I could relate because I'm Mexican too. But it's great to, you have all this success that you've accomplished, which I'm sure through a lot of hardships, and you set like a huge example for other people, you know, because like I walk in here, this is encouraging to me. It's like, wow, look at what you've been able to accomplish, you know. And it's like, well, if you're able to do things like that for me, it encourages me, you know. It's like, that's really cool to see, because then I know, you know, if I go after something, I'm not the only one. There's other people, they're going through things, and like, you know, 6 years is a long time, you know, for you to, that takes a lot of commitment, a lot of grit, but you made it happen. So it's great for me to see it, be like, okay, you know, what else can I do? And who else, you know, you don't know who else you'd be kind of like touching or impacting like that, which to me is really cool. Just wanted to kudos on that, you know?
Yeah.
So you kind of touched base on some methods or approaches to overcoming that like self-doubt. Is there any more that come up to mind of like, you know, how do you overcome the self-doubt, the negative thoughts, the imposter syndrome, or like when you said, oh, like, you know, you go to different places and you're like, you know, you're in the art industry, so, but you still feel that like, oh, you know, I don't know if I should be here. It's like, what other ways and methods that, or approaches that you take in order to overcome that?
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that you mentioned, right, that just sparked this thought is, I think with success, and I've heard, you know, you've probably heard this before, with success there's great responsibility. And I think you talking about, you know, being some type of inspiration and realizing after, you know, I'm pushing 15 years in this field, and I've come to realize that I, you know, whether it's 1 or 100 or what have you, there's an opportunity to inspire others. And that sort of really, by acknowledging that, it taught me a great deal of understanding and being responsible. Because what I'm putting out there, how I'm behaving, and, you know, how I'm treating others can transcend, right? And in this industry, you know, a lot of the times, especially galleries, some of them will have a stigma, whether how they're being represented, whether they're being compensated, if they're being treated right. So I always try to remember that, that how I conduct business and follow through with all the artists that I get to work with, that responsibility, right? I also, I mean, you know, I think part of like being able to, that has allowed me to get this far is being uncomfortable. The truth is like, yeah, I can walk into a room, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna be confident, even if I have to fake it for a little bit, you know? Even with friends, just hanging out with friends, you know, I would go to parties and I would feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't feel like I was cool enough. And sure enough, I'd just sit in the corner by myself and kept quiet. And then all of a sudden I had like 5 people talking to me just by being quiet. So I kind of like understood like there's a little bit of power in that. But I think having self-confidence and just believing in yourself, up until that moment where maybe others start believing in you, you know, that's one of the hardest things to, I think, do as well. But, you know, growing up as a kid, I grew up, you know, my mom raised me, I never met my father. So I think I always tended to sort of like seek a father figure, or, you know, that guidance that you might get from a father figure. And so I was always that kid kind of asking questions and bugging the guy across the street, like, what are you doing? And how's that work? And, you know, just being nosy, quite frankly, you know, just not letting someone shut the door on you, you know. And if they did, go knock on another door, really. So I always felt comfortable asking questions. I always felt comfortable meeting strangers. And that ultimately has allowed me to feel very comfortable and confident in an arena, whether deep down I'm kind of like, shy and maybe a little scared even, but I also know that, with everything that we've talked about so far is I'm not there to hurt anybody. I'm there to try to contribute and maybe learn something. That's always been a way to, I think, apply my focus when I'm like going into a room, going into an event or an unknown space, is going respectfully and just understand, if it fits for me or maybe I can contribute to something else, so.
Yeah. So over the course of your, let's say, your career, I take it like your methods and approaches to overcoming all this self-doubt and everything have improved over time, right? So how has your life been different from, like, let's say when you started till now by implementing like certain things, like, you're mentioning kind of like positive thinking, influencing people, like kind of just changing your mindset, like faking it, while you're at it if you have to. So how has your life been different, let's say, when you kind of started till now by implementing these different methods and approaches and overcoming the self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and negative thoughts?
That's a great one, I think. I think part of the self-doubt is also the fact that I dropped out my freshman year out of high school. And yes, I went back to, get my general education, but I never went to, I went to some city college and dropped out of that too.
Same.
which I'm not encouraging anyone to drop out of school. It just didn't work out for me. But I think that created some self-doubt, especially when, even if I was just exploring and not maybe very serious about considering an opportunity to curate at a museum or some institution, I immediately felt invaluable because I don't have the credentials, I don't have a degree, and those types of things kind of could get you down, so I really think that kind of self-doubt has allowed me to give me a learning experience for myself to understand that even though I don't have a degree, that I still have something, a different perspective to share and find value within that. And that's allowed me to learn that I have a unique vision. I have a unique perspective on things, a big part of what sort of contributed to me opening the space was coming from a graffiti culture, a graffiti background, and, sort of evolving from that, not just being siloed into one genre of art, and understanding within myself that I appreciated all art, whether it's visual or two-dimensional, even performance. So I think really learning and realizing that every day I can learn something new, whether it's something that benefits the business or benefits me in life, like what I was saying, is letting go of the ego. I think it's a really massive ingredient in that culture that I come from. We're putting up our name, we're getting recognition, you get the fame, and sort of letting go of that, and understanding and just kind of finding myself, just who I am as a person. And I've been sober for many years now, and I think that also helped me really sort of have a clear mind to really like dig deeper within myself. And I think in that time that I've had to reflect on that, it's allowed me to like really like understand where I come from and my DNA, my roots, and all that, just all these things of like, I just continue to try to learn. I learn about myself, eventually. I think I say learn about myself because of the lifestyle, you know. I think being passionate about art and nerdy stuff, collecting books and toys and things like that. We all have our things, you know, but I think it allows me to learn that having an open mind is also really important and has taught me a lot.
So someone that is in their own personal path to their definition of success, based on your experience, what words of advice, tips, wisdom would you give them?
Sorry, say the first part again.
As like someone that's watching this and they're, you know, pursuing their definition of success, whatever that may be, what words of advice, tips, wisdom would you give them as they're approaching life? Because I feel like, you know, everything that you've learned can apply to all different facets, no matter kind of whatever definition of success we're all facing or chasing. Like everything you've shared today can be applied to that.
Yeah, well, definitely I think being open-minded. I would, you know, like we were talking about just our likes, you know, being open-minded, even if it's about a plate of food or something like that. You might walk into a restaurant and might be a little scared about it, and could turn out you might have the best dish in your life, you know, the best food you've ever experienced. And within that, you get to meet some amazing people and maybe get to learn a little bit about their story. I always see an opportunity to learn from other people in that way. So, and I do that by having an open mind, being respectful in that avenue too, as you're approaching new things. You know, if you dislike something, you're certainly open to your opinion, but you know, if you need to spit the food out, maybe do it, you know, not in front of the person that worked really hard to make that for you. Sort of an example, right, of how to try to like not offend someone at the same time. You know, I think dreaming is a big one, you know.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think, you know, I dreamed of this and didn't ever imagine that I'd be living my dream. I literally would, you know, daydream, or just, you know, as I'm going to bed as a kid, I would have these visions. Like, they were a little silly and a little bit too extreme, you know. I thought I was going to be this kind of rock star. But maybe I was telling myself, even as a young kid, that I would amount to something, you know, feeling like, especially for the youth and anyone who might have children, you know, my upbringing was very difficult. And I think for that same reason, I dreamed as big as I could. And, you know, I understand that now. So I think not ever giving up on that, and you'll feel like you're never going to get out of it. You know, sometimes it just feels like it's impossible to just make it to the next step. But you know, I think just keeping that willpower, keeping that focus, that dedication, believing in yourself is so important. You know, there'll be times where you'll feel like no one believes in you, you know, and maybe the people that you've been talking to or surrounding yourself with are not believing in you, you know, and as hard as it is, sometimes you just, you know, find yourself that way. You know, you find the opportunity to be like, well, I believe in me. You know, it doesn't matter that no one else either cares or doesn't understand where your focus is, where you want to go, that path you want to take. I've really understood, like, over the years, like, there's a path and a direction that I've always envisioned myself going and getting there, you know, and through so many hard times, eventually I started to find my people. I started to recognize that there is people that do believe in you. You just maybe weren't sharing it. Be okay to show your vulnerability, to show that you're scared and that you don't know certain things, and asking for help is another big thing. I think sometimes pride gets in the way of that, wanting to do everything ourselves. But I truly believe that if it wasn't for a lot of these things that I've just said, I wouldn't be here today. And yeah, I think those are just a few things I think that really are stewed into a dream. There's so many stepping stones and paths that one needs to take to see that through, and not giving up is a big part.
Well said. Well, thank you so much, Juan Carlos. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank
so
you.
Good.
I really appreciate it. I hope that was good.
That was really good. I want to thank you for sharing your testimony. That's good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's good. I love it.